Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Variety Sports Network. This is The Next Left Turn. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms to be, all the moms that have been moms, all the grandmas, all the great grandmas, all the aunts and uncles who play the role of mom. Uh, Aunts, excuse me. Uh, Everybody who's a mom. Happy Mother's Day. And because it's Mother's Day, we're going to make this a quicker show. Aaron's got the night off. I'm not even doing video clips tonight. We're not going to do deep dive interactions on this race. We're just going to cover it and get you all back to the family so you can enjoy your evening. Darlington Raceway, too tough to tame. Man, it looked like it was pretty tame for the first part of the race today, let's be honest. But the end was good. The end was fun. The end brought controversy and drama. It's fantastic. And after the show, if you guys want to see more of that, head on over to NASCAR.com. Check out the clips. You're going to want to go see some of these clips I'm going to talk about. And we're going to see what that does in the coming weeks, especially at the All-Star race and then at the big Coca-Cola 600 in 2 weeks. But let's dive right into it. It was a fun race. It was a very, very clean race to start the race. But like I said, we're in Darlington, South Carolina for the Goodyear 400. Darlington's a 1.36-mile track. So not a super speedway, more of a speedway, but it's got some of the short track, old school vibes to it. This track is legendary. Obviously, it's a big track in Days of Thunder. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Tom Cruise, the original NASCAR movie, way before Talladega Nights. It's a better movie. It's more fun. Not as funny, but definitely a more fun movie, more realistic. But yeah, let's get to it. So Reddick gets to start on the pole for this race. Keselowski is up front with him. And when the green flag drops, Reddick's gone. Just clears him, takes off. Vroom. Reddick's car was set up all day. He looked fantastic. He was moving through traffic for the most part. He had great speed on the basically from the start of a run till you got to that 45, 50 lap mark. His car was dominant. Nobody could touch him. And that's why my thought midway through the race was, man, if this thing keeps going green, he's just going to start pulling away and keep leading away, and it's going to be his race. It was his race to lose is what I really felt. But things don't always work out the way we project them to or what we think will happen. So we had a lot going on here. But Ross Chastain, right off the bat, lap 3, he has to lock up his brakes. He brushes the wall. We saw this all day too, because at Darlington, you run that high side. You run that high side because it's the cleanest line to run. It's the fastest line to run because the track's just a little bit of a different shape than normal. Very similar shape to what Worldwide Technology Racetrack's going to be at the beginning of June, but WWT is much flatter, where Darlington's got some banking. So it'll be a different race in WWT. Trust me, and it's going to be a good one. That's the Enjoy Illinois 300 coming up. I think it's the first weekend in June. I'll have to go back and check the schedule. But Ross Chastain gets loose, locks up the brakes. He touches the wall. He drops back to 14th. There's no caution there. And like I said, this race at the beginning was all clean. Nothing crazy going on, just good, clean racing, not a lot of bumping or rubbing. And you're not going to do that at Darlington because Darlington is a tough track. It always gives drivers problems because turns 1 and 2 are so much different than turns 3 and 4 that there's got to be adjustments periods, and you got to survive this race to be able to compete in the last stage. But we get through our first set of pit stops, and those start coming about 35, a little bit earlier than we all thought they were going to be, because we were thinking it was more like 40 to 50, 55 laps. Fuel was not a problem there. It was mostly how your tires were going to be. And the cars that were running those inside lanes were going to burn their tires up a little bit quicker. The guys who stay on the outside could last a bit longer, as we saw as the race went on. So it took about 10 laps to get everybody through. And at the end of the first set of green flag pit stops, Ty Gibbs cycled up to the front. William Byron was in second. And Kyle Larson, and I kept calling him Terry Labonte today because that's back from when I started watching racing when I was a kid, and that was Terry's car and Terry's paint job, and it won Fan Vote of the Week for best paint job, by the way. So congratulations to Hendricks for getting another W of some sort this year. But Larson was in third. Reddick really had some trouble on pit road. He had a real bad stop. His team dropped him back a little bit, but that didn't seem to be a problem in the long run. Ty Gibbs, about 15 laps later, he's getting to the point where he's still in the lead and he's working around lap traffic. Suarez starts giving him some trouble because Suarez doesn't want to give up that position. He actually crowds up Suarez a little bit and pushes him up and runs him up into the wall just a smidge. Nothing crazy, just good old-fashioned racing. We're getting to the very end of stage 1. Again, this stage was very clean. No accidents, no cautions, nothing major to really report there. But Gibbs is starting to lose ground. He's burned up his tires at this point, and Larson is just coming. He is charging. He's looking like Terry Labonte of old. And Gibbs finally just kind of gets loose at one point. He wiggles. He brushes the outside wall with the right rear. Again, very common theme in this race all day long. And Larson just drives right by him. And Larson gets the stage 1 win. And I think it's his 7th stage win already this year. I think he only had 8 total last year, if I recall that from the broadcast correctly. So at the end of stage 1, we had Kyle Larson in first, Gibbs in second, Brad Keselowski, who was strong all day, very strong all day, was up front all day. Got third in the first stage. Tyler Reddick worked his way back up to fourth. Martin Truex, again, strong all day, finished 5th in the first stage. Todd Gilliland, you guys have heard me mention his name multiple times at multiple tracks this year, with another set of stage points collected in 6th. Busher was in 7th. Ryan Blaney 8th, the defending NASCAR champion. William Byron in 9th, and then Bubba Wallace was in 10th. Then we get our our stage change pit stops. I just really don't have a good name to call those. But Larson takes the field down to pit lane. Reddick ends up getting out in front this time, and he gets to start in first to start stage 2. He and Gibbs and Keselowski are kind of jockeying him right off the start of stage 2. Reddick clears everybody. Gibbs holds off Keselowski for second, so Keselowski's got a little work to do. And Gibbs was up there, and Gibbs stayed up there for a while. He had a strong car. Disappointing day for Gibbs, let's just say that. Again, stage 2, we're clean for like the first 30 laps. And right before we're getting to that point where you think we're going to start seeing green flag pit stops, John Hunter Nemechek spins out, loses control, blows the right rear tire. No major damage to the car. He slid out. They got him back to pit road. He got changed out and was back out on his way. We get a green flag. Reddick, again, just gone. His car was so strong on the restarts today. He got out in front, and he could just fly. As long as he had clean air, he was good. And we've seen that theme all year with these cars. But Reddick today looked like he was locked in. If you were doing the betting, the live betting, that would have been a guy you put your money on early in the race. I'm sure he had great odds. But side by side, Reddick and Gibbs are out front. Reddick takes off. Gibbs is battling for second. And then the guys really calm down. They get back in single file line, a little bit of side-by-side racing, not a bunch of ruffian stuff going on at this point. Everything's nice and clean. You know, like I said, this race, this track is more of a marathon than it is a sprint. You got to make it to the end where you can be aggressive. And we saw that in this race. But as we're getting through the race, Zane Smith, I know he's one of the young guys. It's his rookie season. Takes us a little bit of a spin off turn 4. We get another caution there. And then we see some pit stops, and we see some strategy start getting played here. But Reddick at the green flag, Reddick and Keselowski are up front. They run side by side in turn 1. This is where we first see the first real aggressive move. Keselowski does a deep dive to the bottom in turn 3, but he can't get around Reddick. And this was a theme for stage 3. These two went back and forth at it, and it was really great racing. We start seeing a little bit of rubbing here. We see some paint get traded, and that's always fun. Because somebody's going to get loose and spin out, or we're going to get a big accident. And we never really got the big one today. But, yeah, they start trading paint. It's good, clean racing. There's nothing egregious there, nothing malicious. A little bit later, Reddick finally clears him off turn 2, and Reddick continues to lead. And that's really it for stage 2. Reddick just kind of takes off from that point on, and he's gone. He has the race lead, and he does not let it go. Aaron, look, he's helping me out. Don't forget to like, submit, comment, sub to Next Left Turn. I appreciate that, Aaron. Thanks so much. I know you had a busy night. Tell your mom Happy Mother's Day for me. So we get to the end of stage 2. Tyler Reddick gets that win, gets him a bunch of stage points. Keselowski finishes second. Ty Gibbs still there in third. Joey Logano's worked his way up very quietly. He took a little bit of a risk in the pitting strategy earlier in the race, so he was up in 4th. Kyle Larson 5th. William Byron in 6th. Chris Buescher in 7th. Denny Hamlin got 8th. Bubba Wallace 9th. And Ross Chastain 10th. Now, here's the interesting thing. We had Toyota, Ford, Chevy, Ford, Toyota, Chevy. Ford actually had a strong run. They've seemed to find their speed in the last couple weeks. The horsepower is there, especially out of the RFK cars. Chris Buescher, obviously, last week was really, really close at the end. He had that record-setting finish with Kyle Larson. And if you guys didn't know, there was some debate over that. Buescher's crew challenged that over the week, saying that the finishing line at Kansas wasn't straight. Obviously, there was no headway there with that claim. I mean, if you look at the pictures, go check it out. If you guys want to do a little bit back research there, go check that out. Go look at the pictures. The line doesn't look perfectly straight, but it looks straight enough for me. I don't know if it's the breaking the track down the apron, but neither here nor there. That's last week, not this week. Regardless, Chris Buescher was on a mission because he felt like he got robbed last week, like royally robbed. And the man was on a mission this week to prove a point. So we didn't get a lot of action in stage 1 or stage 2, a couple single car cautions in stage 2, but nothing really jumped out. And we get into stage 3, and this is where the race gets good. And I've kind of noticed with this stage racing thing that racing is a little boring for stage 1 and stage 2 right now. Everybody's trying to just get the stage points, collect, and move on. If you get a win, you're obviously into the playoffs. If you don't win, you got to have enough points. And everybody's trying to get these stage points. And I think it's taken away a little bit of racing. Just for me personally, you don't see guys going hard all the time. But it's a lot of strategy. And the strategy I find very interesting, how each team handles things differently. And not just within the teams, but like how the different Hendricks cars will each handle things differently, or how the different Gibbs cars will handle things differently. They're not always on the same strategy. So it does keep things a little bit interesting, but I think it takes away a little bit from the sport. But again, I'm getting used to it. I'm trying to adapt to these new ways in NASCAR. I've been gone for so long, it's still somewhat foreign to me. But here we go, stage 3. This is where all the action happens. So Reddick and Keselowski are up front again. Again, theme all day long. These two cars were locked in. They were good to go. But Byron, Larson, and Keselowski go 3 wide into turn 2. Byron lifts. Keselowski stays on it. He goes. He gets second position. And this is kind of where that jockeying slows down a little bit. With about 58 laps to go, Kyle Larson in that beautiful Terry Labonte car, paint job, brushes the wall while he's in third place. All of a sudden now we get a set of pit stops, because at this point we were still playing the strategy game. Everything had been very copacetic and everything was really relaxed. But now you got pit stops. Now guys are playing tires and fuel. Well, Larson brushes the wall. He ends up going to the pit lane under green. He just had to change out his tires, get back on the track. Everybody on the lead lap goes through the pits. Keselowski cycles through to the race lead, and Reddick's back a little bit. Nothing real big. We get the green flag drop. We end up getting another caution from Kyle Larson. He spins out this time. A little disappointing, but it happens. He had that beautiful paint job. I wanted to see that car, finish the race, but he didn't get to. He ended up being out. I did miss a point in my notes here. Ryan Blaney got tied up with William Byron in the second stage, and I've looked at the clip probably 15 times. Byron went 3 wide where he shouldn't have gone 3 wide. He ends up getting a little loose. He bumps into Truex Jr. Truex Jr. bumps into Blaney and puts Blaney into the wall. It bends a front tie rod, and it ends Blaney's day. Blaney went to the pits. They couldn't get the car fixed in time while he was on the pits. But he almost pulled a Days of Thunder move and comes out of pit lane and drives right at William Byron. And right as he's about to hit him, he pulls the wheel back left and doesn't hit him. He thought better of it. He let his emotions take a run on him and control his actions. And that's not what champions do. But instead of following through with how he was feeling, he pulled back, retained himself like a real man does, and put his car back into the garage. He had a little bit of beef. Byron's been less than professional at times this year. I don't care what anybody says. You can argue with me right here on the screen. I'll be happy to go on it with you. But Byron's a very, very good driver. He's very, very fast, but he lacks a certain set of skill and tact in the car for this age of racing. Now, I enjoy it. I think it makes things a lot more interesting, but for the way these cars are and the way racing is done nowadays, from what I can tell, he lacks a certain amount of, I can't even come up with the right words for it right now. And tax basically the only thing I can come up with that's not the right word to use, but he drives reckless at times. He looks like a young Ross Chastain at times, and he's on a very established team, and it's disappointing at times because he took Ryan Blaney out, and Ryan Blaney was having a good day. But I'm sure we'll see some consequences from that in races to come. So I'm sorry I jumped over that part. So Kyle Larson spins, another flat tire, caution comes out. Keselowski leads the field to pit lane. Reddick gets off pit lane first, so he gets to start first for the next set of laps. And they run side by side right here. I mean, they just are side by side, door to door, barely back and forth, noses trading, nothing malicious going on at this point. And Chris Buescher out of nowhere comes up and he gives Keselowski a push to try to get him all the way past Reddick. And it doesn't work. Keselowski can't finish the move. So now you see Buescher says, okay, if you can't do it, if I see the door open, I'm going to take my shot. And with about 17 laps left, so I'm not pulling video tonight because I'm trying to keep the show a little shorter for Mother's Day. You got Keselowski and you got Reddick, and they're side by side. They do a little bumping in the corner. They separate, slow down. Buescher has a chance to come in, and Buescher cuts low to the inside and makes the pass. Clean pass going into turn one. They get around the turn, and Reddick catches back up. Reddick cuts too hard. He loses control of his car. He claims that he tried to let off the gas, and when he did, he slid up the track, and he ended up putting both of them into the wall at this point, which left Keselowski off. He could just go. It was weird because you saw that Reddick had slowed up and Buescher had passed him at this point, and you knew Reddick had blown a tire or something was bent, something was wrong. We get that at that point in the race, you couldn't tell. But just down the track, all of a sudden Buescher loses it and he starts going slow. And this is where Keselowski is just gone. It just hands him the lead. He's just off like a silver bullet. But what had happened is both cars had gotten flat left tires when they banged up into each other. Keselowski at that point just takes it and runs with the lead. The closest that Gibbs ever got was about a half second behind. Keselowski ends up winning it. It's the first win for Ford this year, and it comes at Darlington. It snaps a 110 race losing streak for Keselowski and his first win as a partial owner for the team he drives for, and he's the first driver to do that since Tony Stewart did back in 2016 at Sonoma, I believe what was the call on that. Now, there's drama after the race. Chris Buescher goes and hunts down Reddick. He is mad. He is heated because these two guys have such a great relationship. They have a good friendship. They always race each other clean. And at this point, Buescher is yelling at Reddick in his face. And Reddick saying, it's my fault. It's my fault. I did it. To wreck my car is one thing. To wreck your car is a whole nother thing. I mean, there was obviously some tension. I could pretty sure that in the interview, or it wasn't even the interview, it was a hot mic caught some of the conversation. But it sounded like Buescher said this means war. This is the second time in 2 weeks that Buescher has basically had the win taken from him because he was going to win this race. He had gotten a big enough lead off the original pass that Reddick was losing it. Reddick was going to probably not be able to catch him with where they were at on the track and what they were coming up to. And Buescher was mad, and he had every right to be mad. Reddick made a bad move. He made a rookie move. He was being aggressive with 20 laps left, and I don't fault Reddick for that. But he lost control of his car, and he took both of them out, and he handed the win to Keselowski. So Buescher, on one hand, his teammate wins, his owner wins, but it's not him. Second week in a row, and I think last week was probably more of a burn for him, but everything he was carrying from last week built up, and he kind of let go of it on Tyler Reddick. And again, I don't blame him. These guys are sitting in a car all day long, over 100 degrees. They've got some air conditioning on them and they get some water, but they're driving at 160, 180, 200 miles an hour week in and week out. And that tension, that stress builds up. So I love seeing a little bit of drama after the races on pit lane. I always think it makes things more interesting and gives us things to look forward to in the coming races. But Keselowski does get the win here. and Ford finally gets the monkey off their back. They found their speed, so we'll see what happens in the upcoming races. But I got the finishing order here at the bottom for you. So Keselowski won, Gibbs second. Josh Berry finishes high in third. Denny Hamlin had a very quiet day. His car was not very, very strong. But being the veteran that he is, he was able to work his way back up through the field and get another top 5 finish. Chase Briscoe got 5th. William Byron, again, I think he's becoming a bad guy. I think he's becoming a heel. It doesn't help that he drives for Hendricks, but with his lackadaisical driving currently, I think he's starting to rub some people the wrong way, because it's not the first time he's made a bad move and wrecked somebody this year. Let's just put it that way. If it was the first time, I can understand it, and Blaney probably wouldn't have been as upset, but it's not. This is becoming more of a pattern for him. But he ends up finishing 6th because of his aggressive style of racing. Bubba Wallace had a very quiet day. He finished 7th. Another top 10 finish for him. Alex Bowman 8th. Justin Haley with a nice finish in 9th. Michael McDowell, who had some big news this week as he is leaving Front Row Motorsports and switching to Spire next year, finished 10th. Ross Chastain got 11th. Chase Elliott, kind of a poor day for Chase Elliott. He's been running really, really well lately. He just didn't have it today. Car wasn't there, and that happens in NASCAR. Christopher Bell, or Chase Elliott was 12th. Christopher Bell in 13th. Noah Gragson, another good race. This kid got himself into some trouble with some things he had said and shared on social media a year or two ago. And he switched over to Stewart-Haas Racing this offseason, and he looks like a whole new driver. He may be one of those guys we have to watch for the next couple of years if he can continue to drive and improve at the rate he is currently. Todd Gilliland, again, I said earlier, you guys heard me say his name quite a bit this year. Another great finish, top 15. He finishes 15th. The guy is coming along. He's doing it without big money, without big sponsorship, without the big name behind him, but he is working week in and week out, and he is not a force. He's not becoming a force to be reckoned with, but he is becoming some kind of a player in NASCAR, and he's there. We're seeing him more and more often, so it'll be interesting to see what happens for him going forward. Finished 16th was Corey LaJoie. Ryan Preece, 17th. Kaz Grala got a top 20 here at 18th. Eric Jones got 19th in his return to the track after he was off for the last 2 weeks after getting a back fracture in Talladega. Austin Cindric and Joey Logano finished 20th and 21st for Penske, because Ryan Blaney finished 36th because he got knocked out of the race. Harrison Burton got 22nd. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 23rd. Daniel Suarez 24th. Martin Truex, from his involvement in the collision with Ryan Blaney and William Byron earlier in the race, finished 25th. Carson Hocevar, who was, man, he had a little bit of they played some strategy earlier in the race, and he was up there and got to lead some laps today. I thought maybe he'd finish more like in the top 20, but he comes in 26th. Kyle Busch had a very un-Kyle Busch day and finished 27th. Austin Dillon, kind of where he's been all year, 28th. Derek Kraus, 29th. Chris Buescher ends up 30th after the accident with 9-10, wherever that incident occurred, laps left. So he dropped all the way to 30th. Another reason he's hot, because he doesn't have the win yet to lock himself into the playoffs. John Hunter Nemechek, 31st. And then Tyler Reddick ended up 32nd. Daniel Hemrick, 33rd. Kyle Larson, 34th. From when he spun out and wrecked early in stage 3. Zane Smith, 35th, and Ryan Blaney brought up the rear with 36th. So right now, I do want to give you guys a point standing rundown. I haven't done that in a while. Kyle Larson's in first with 486. Martin Truex Jr. is 30 points behind him. Denny Hamlin's 39 behind him. Chase Elliott's in fourth, 49 points behind him. William Byron's in fifth at minus 86 points. Tyler Reddick's got minus 90 points, so he's in sixth. Ty Gibbs is 96 points behind. Ryan Blaney, 115 points behind. Bowman, 121. Chastain, 128. Keselowski now has his win. He's locked in the playoffs. He's 142 points behind. Buescher, 155 points behind. Kyle Busch, 162 points behind. Chase Briscoe, 164. Christopher Bell sits in 15th, but he does have a win. He's 166 points behind. And Bubba Wallace is 170 points behind. Logano's 194 at 17. Daniel Suarez is in the playoffs because he has a win, but he's 223 points behind. Noah Gragson is 19th in points. He's 247 points behind. And then Austin Cindric is 254 points behind in 20th. It's been interesting. It's been an interesting season thus far. We got the All-Star break next week. All-Star break. All-Star race. All money, no points, guys. It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. We get the Open at like 5 Eastern on Sunday night, and then we get the real race. I think is at 7 Eastern. Let me get the schedule up here so I can get you guys the right times. I don't want to mess you all up if you're really relying on me for all that stuff. Let me click over here. So 6 days, 22 hours, and 35 minutes, 20 seconds. So it's 8 p.m. Eastern time is when the actual All-Star race will start. The Open starts at 5 Eastern at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Remember last year was the first year back in North Wilkesboro. They had to do a bunch of regenerative work to this track because it was sitting there. It was covered in all kinds of grass and weeds, and it was in really, really bad shape. They did a ton of work. Dale Earnhardt Jr. Kind of spearheaded that charge to bring NASCAR back to that. So the Open event is 100 laps. Then there's a break of around 40. There's a break in there around 40 laps. The top 2 finishers move to the Open. There's a fan vote winner that will transfer for the All-Star race too, so you can get your favorite guy in. The All-Star race will be a complete 200-lap event based around the $100 lap heat and then the 100-lap Open part of the race. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be Sunday night next week. So depending on that, when that ends, it will dictate whether we have a show like live reaction right after, which will be a lot like last week where we had no prep time to come on and it was just go, 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 which we didn't mind. It was fun. Made things interesting. But pay attention to Facebook, X, YouTube. You'll see the thumbnail come out if we're into not doing a show next week. Might take next week off since the All-Star race. But it was a good race at Darlington. We're definitely going to want to see what, if anything, happens in the way of suspensions for the altercation on pit road after the race. I doubt there will be one because it didn't get physically out of hand by any means. There's a lot of yelling. There was a hot mic that caught some less than favorable language for live TV. Let's just say that. But Darlington, another historic track, another great race in the books. Very, very exciting finish. You really thought it was going to be Reddick or Buescher. Keselowski was there all day. I thought Larson was going to be there up until the end. It was a good race, guys. It was a good race. But here's my tip to you. If the stage racing doesn't work for you, just watch the green flag drop. Go do something for like 2.5 hours and then come back for the back half of stage 3, because the back half of stage 3, every race this year seems to be very interesting. Stage 3 as a whole has been very interesting. Or if you just don't want to watch the race, I usually have the clips. You always can join us here on the Next Left Turn on Variety Sports Network on Sunday nights, typically on Sunday nights. I don't think I've let you guys down yet. I do appreciate all of you guys for tuning in every week and following and liking the stuff. We're doing the best we can. Hopefully the production's getting better for you. If you guys have any tips, comments, concerns, make sure you get to our X page, our Facebook page, or YouTube. Hit the Variety Sports Network. That goes straight to the big dog. He will relay to me any messages y'all have for me. But guys, good week. Good race for Mother's Day. I would say to you all, have a fantastic week. Let's get ready for North Wilkesboro. And you guys take care. Thanks for coming in.